The Ghosts of the Donner Party, a haunting in the Sierra Nevada. The modern-day hikers. Our story begins with a group of 5 friends who decide to go on a hiking trip in the Sierra Nevada mountains, seeking adventure and the beauty of the wilderness. They plan to follow a historic trail near Donner Lake, where the ill-fated Donner Party met their tragic end over 170 years ago. The group consists of 2 couples, Jake and Emily, Matt and Sarah, and their friend Chris, who is an amateur historian obsessed with the Donner Party story. As they hike deeper into the mountains, Chris begins sharing the grim details of the Donner Party's fate, pointing out landmarks and recounting the stories of the pioneers who died there. The mood among the friends shifts from excitement to unease as they realize they are walking in the footsteps of people who faced unimaginable horrors. Strange occurrences. The first sign that something is wrong comes on the second night of their trip. The group sets up camp near the remnants of an old cabin, believed to be one of the last shelters used by the Donner Party. As they sit around the campfire, telling ghost stories, the temperature suddenly drops, and a thick, unnatural fog rolls in. Despite the warmth of the fire, the cold seeps into their bones, and they start to feel like they're being watched. Later that night, Jake wakes up to the sound of whispers outside the tent. He peeks out and sees shadowy figures moving through the fog, but when he calls out to them, they vanish. Convinced he's just imagining things, he goes back to sleep, but the whispers continue, growing louder and more insistent, as if the voices are trying to communicate with him. The hauntings intensify. The next day, the group presses on, but the atmosphere grows increasingly oppressive. The fog doesn't lift, and the forest seems darker, more foreboding. Chris becomes more excited, convinced they are close to finding an undiscovered relic from the Donner Party. But the others are starting to feel the weight of the place's dark history. As they set up camp that night, Sarah notices something strange. Her compass is spinning wildly, and their GPS devices fail. The group realizes they are lost, but Chris insists they're close to something important. As night falls, the temperature plummets again, and the whispering voices return, now clearly audible to everyone. The whispers are not the only thing haunting them. Throughout the night, they hear the sound of footsteps crunching through the snow, though there's no snow on the ground. Shadowy figures are seen in the distance, and at one point, they all hear a blood-curdling scream echo through the forest, a scream that sounds disturbingly human. The encounter. On the final night, the terror reaches its peak. As the group huddles together in fear, their campfire suddenly extinguishes, plunging them into darkness. The whispers become louder, now mixed with cries of pain and desperation, as if the voices of the dead are all around them. The shadowy figures draw closer, their forms more distinct, tattered clothing, emaciated bodies, faces twisted in agony. The friends try to flee, but the forest seems to close in around them, the fog becoming almost solid. They stumble upon an old, crumbling cabin, likely one of the original shelters of the Donner Party. Desperate for safety, they rush inside, only to find the interior freezing cold and filled with the stench of decay. As they huddle together, the door slams shut on its own, trapping them inside. The temperature drops further, and frost begins to form on the walls. The whispers now become coherent, revealing the final moments of the Donner Party members, voices pleading for help, for food, for the warmth of the sun that never came. Suddenly, Chris starts convulsing, as if possessed by a force. He begins to speak in a voice that is not his own, recounting the harrowing decisions the pioneers had to make, the descent into madness, and the cannibalism that saved some while dooming others. His friends watch in horror as he collapses, and the ghostly figures of the Donner Party appear around them, their eyes filled with sorrow and rage. The spirits approach, reaching out as if to drag the living into their world of eternal suffering. Just as it seems all hope is lost, the first light of dawn breaks through the fog. The ghosts fade away, leaving the group shaken and traumatized but alive. They escape the cabin and stumble back to civilization, forever changed by what they've experienced. Conclusion. When they finally reach safety, they discover that only a single night has passed, though it felt like an eternity. They vow never to speak of what happened in those mountains, but the experience haunts them all. Years later, one of the friends decides to break their silence and share the story with the world, hoping to warn others and never to return to that cursed place. But the story has a final, chilling twist. After sharing their tale, the friend begins to experience strange occurrences in their own home, cold spots, whispers in the dark, and the shadowy figures of the Donner Party appearing once more. It seems that once the spirits have found you, they never truly let you go.